Hello fellow modelers and styling fanatics, welcome back to my channel. I hope that everyone is doing fine and enjoys the hobby. Concrete Banker is once again back with another one of its notorious episodes. So on today's episode we continue our work on our Stug 3 10.5 cm from Dragon in 1/35 scale in kit number 9058, if I remember correctly. Let me check. Yes, 9058. So it's been too hot. You can see the lad over there, and I am talking about the fan. I am as always kinda busy, so it took me a while to wrap up this update. It is not so adventurous. When I say adventurous, it is more like a show and tell. But there is still a good portion of job done onto our Stug. Apart that, also I have included my advices for brush painting in there, for obviously for no reason, to be honest with you guys. I just wanted to do that. And I have also did a small how-to, not a how-to, I also included a small portion of me adding mud to the lower hull of the vehicle, the way I do it at least. So with all that said and done, you guys know the drill. Crack the mandatory cold one, grab yourselves a comfortable seat, and let's see what me and Past George have done on this episode. So guys, welcome back to part 4 of our Stug. This is the painting stage. Most of you guys that watch my videos, you know that mostly the painting stage is show and tell. So this is not gonna be an exception. Now, let me lay out my plans for this. My plans for the painting stage of the Stug. So, I am of course going to place the photo of the vehicle that I am trying to replicate in front of you right now. So if you look closely, this is a vehicle that has a white wash on top of it. Mainly you can see, you can tell because if you look the underside of the barrel, it has chips, dark chips, which means that it was that the majority of the vehicle we see is the white camo, not chipped a lot. So this is a late war vehicle, which is I suppose it's nearly 1944, which means that the base coat was a dark yellow. Thanks Rob for helping me with that, find that out. So this means that this thing is going to be base coated with dark yellow and then a white wash on top of it. Now, what are my next steps? Because this thing has photo etched and plastic parts and the aluminum barrel, I will need to prime the whole thing up and prepare the surface this way, because we have many different mediums. So guys, after a while Stug is primed, and now you can see it in its whole glory. You know, the main assembly in its whole glory. It is a really detailed kit. Now that everything is a uniform color, we can appreciate the detail that Dragon put on this kit. Okay, it has some minor flaws, like this one over here. This one is supposed to be something like a tool clasp, but in our case it's just a simple square block, but I'm okay with this. So now that I have this primed, I'm gonna give it some time to cure, and I am going to work onto the road wheels. As I've said, I have started painting them over here. This is the back side. I need to do the front side, and then the tires. So let me continue doing what I do. I just stopped the video. I just recorded this part of the video so you can see, you can take a closer look at the Stug primed, because right now it is the point that every detail pops. Well, of course, and every detail will pop after the painting and weathering stage, but now it is a good stage to see what we are going to work with. Well, guys, as you can see, I have base coated the Stug. I have also base coated the road wheels, and I have the sprocket and the idler wheel to go. But I wanted to do an in-between video, an in-between updates video. So while I was painting this one, the Stug, I remember that I've told you that I am going to do the hairspray technique, which is kinda a mistake, if you ask me. Now let me explain you better. As you all already know, I am a heuristic guy, and when I say heuristic guy, I paint with paint brushes, which means that this is all hand painted with a paintbrush, and for me to use the hairspray technique, I will need to, of course, give it a liberal coat of hairspray, and then use a white rattle can spray to go on top of it. So far so good if I do that, but I will face a problem later on. If you use a rattle can spray to paint anything, I have found out that products like the panel liner or enamels tend to reactivate the spray, the rattle can paint badly. Badly to reactivate it. It tends to do it act weirdly, you know. I don't know why this happens, but it happens, which means that the paint is activated and then it creates a smudge of all colors merged together. Now, because I wanna apply panel liner on top of everything, on top of every existing detail, the rattle can technique will not work for me, which means that we are not going to do a hairspray chipping at all this time. But we are going to do a white winter camo. We are going to do the white winter camo that you see in the intro photos of the vehicle, the one that is like snake stripes, and this is going to be applied after this update. Now, while I am on this topic, on the topic of spray painting, paintbrush painting, and everything, I wanna talk about it a little bit more. Now, a couple of days ago, in the Greek Facebook modeling page, I have seen a guy paint that has painted a World War I aircraft. He has done a really good job, but he has some flaws in his paintwork. He has some flaws that I used to have when I started painting with a brush. So I wanna give this guy some hints, and not only this guy, give guys in general some hints. Now, I understand that when you are getting started with scale modeling, of course you don't want to spend a fortune and grab an airbrush, a compressor and the rest of the stuff, because that's what happened to me. I started scale modeling as an experiment to see if I like it, and I know that it was I know that I need to paint as well. So I said to myself, I'm gonna try with a paintbrush and we see how it works. Anyway, it's been, I think, 7 years that I do scale modeling as a hobby, and yet I haven't progressed to an airbrush. Although I have one, and I will eventually work with it, yet I am still painting with paintbrushes. I mainly do that because it is my safe way to do it, and because with the passing of time I grew better at it. So I'm gonna give you guys some advices through my experience, and I hope that those advices will be helpful for the newcomers onto the hobby. Now, for the rest of the guys, if there is any advice that you haven't heard before or you don't know, there is still a win for me. Well, so let's start from the basics first. Whenever I assemble a kit, I always prime it, even if it is all covered with plastic. When I say all covered with plastic, it has no photo etched or aluminum parts. What I use for primer, I always use primer from the hardware store, the rattle can primer, the gray one. I tend to do that to unify the whole the whole build, the whole thing that I'm building, first of all. Second of all, to see if there is any flaws onto the surface. And third of all, to have a better understanding of the surface. If you see it in one color, you have a better understanding where to be careful, where detail is visible, and stuff like that. So first things first, you grab a spray primer and you give it a coat. Don't go crazy, because that primer is gonna hide some detail if you go crazy. Spray from a distance of 20 cm in mist coats. Be sure that you have a good coverage, but don't go overboard. So spray primer is my first step. Second step is painting. Now what I use for painting. I'm gonna start from the basics. We all know that you can find flat brushes and round brushes. Let me move the tongue out of the way. So, as I've said, flat brushes and round brushes. For me, I prefer round brushes for several reasons, because most of them are because you can get into there with that. A round brush can paint detail easier than a flat brush. I use both of them, but flat brushes I use mostly for buildings and stuff like that, flat areas in general, big flat areas. So my first advice is go for the round brush. Sorry guys, go for a round brush, because you can paint all kind of details. Second topic about brushes. You don't need go for a brush that has soft bristles, not for a stiff one. You may ask me why is that. A brush with soft bristles tends to leave less brush marks onto the surface that you are painting. Tends to help you a lot, you know what I mean. You may leave some brush marks if you are not careful, but this one eliminates that effect a lot. This one, I mean a brush with soft bristles. Now, size of the brush. When I say size of it, I mean the number it has over here. Let me grab a few of them so you can have a better look. This one is number 6, this one is a number 2. This, let me see if I have a smaller one. This one is a 001. Now, this topic, what number you need to use. This, guys, my experience taught me that if you are painting a tank or a big surface, a number 2 or a number 6, whatever you want, is good enough. 00 brushes with a really pointy edge are mostly used for fine detail in figures. So keep an eye about that. 00 and 000 only for figures and only for fine details like highlighting hard edges, doing stuff like eyes and pupils and stuff like that. My go-to brush is this, is the number 2. This is my workhorse, and this one used to be my workhorse, but I don't know, the number is long gone right now. I think that this one is the number 1 or the number 3, I don't remember now. I think that this one is the number 1, and as you can see, I have to decommission it right now. Well, this will be a brush for weathering now. So to do a general recap, soft brush and not always the smaller one. You know, keep in mind that the smaller one is for details. This puppy right here can hold a lot of color in its bristles and will spread the paint lovely. Now the next thing about brush painting. Let me grab the tank. Before you choose your color, the technique is two coats of thin paint, of diluted paint, not water consistency, but 2 coats. Sorry that I have to pause the video there, guys. A series of unfortunate events happened, and after 2 days I am back to complete what I was saying about painting techniques. So I remember that I was talking about the way you need to paint your stuff, my way of painting stuff. Anyway, I am here to share my advice. So as I've said, mostly if the paints you're using are not as transparent, most of the things you need to paint them in 2 coats. If you need more than 2 coats, then your paint is either too diluted or too transparent. When I say too transparent, I mean, let's say that you are painting yellow over black surface. Of course, this is going to need more than 2 coats of paint, because yellow color is a transparent color. Now let's talk about the coats. So here is how the general rule is going. Here is a general rule. So let's say that we have a flat surface. Your first coat of paint needs to go like this, vertical. Okay, then you leave it to dry. You never move the paint around once you apply it, and once your first coat is dry, then you proceed horizontally. This will help you to have better coverage over what you're painting. Of course, now my paintbrush is full of water, just to let you know. So as I've said, this will help you to have better coverage with what you are painting, and this will also eliminate the brush strokes. Brush strokes, as I've said, are caused mainly through stiff bristled brushes and undiluted paint, non-properly diluted paint, I should say, and the way that you are painting. When I say the way that you are painting, of course, let's say that if you coat this one with vertical movement, and then you move all around it, you keep moving the paint all around while the paint is drying, of course, and you're gonna have some brush streaks, which is going to be visible, which is going to affect your painting procedure badly. If you ask me, it is going to be visible, and it's not realistic. Another thing, next topic. As you can see, if you take a closer look over here, I have not enough coverage, and this happened because whatever you see here is after just one coat of painting. I will need to apply another coat, of course, of diluted paint to have even coverage everywhere. So now that I've talked about this as well, I've talked about the way to do it as well. Let's go to the next and one of the most important topics: what paint to use when you are brush painting. Over here, my advice is find the paint range that suits you and only you. Some guys, some of the guys over there may find Tamiya paint range ideally for them. Some other guys might find life color paints ideal for them. For me is Vallejo. Yeah, Vallejo. That's the proper way to pronounce it. I have tried several paint ranges up to this point, and I have found that Vallejo suits me the most, mainly because I am a cheapskate, and this is a paint range that can be diluted with water, plain tap water, of course, and you can dilute it with its respective paint thinner, but you can use water as well. So this is the paint range that suits me, that I had found that works perfectly with my way of painting stuff. As you can see in front of you, I have several paints. Okay, several paints, several brands. Let's grab these two. These two are enamels. They are time themselves. They are so old that they must be older than me, to be honest with you. These paints are great paints, if you ask me. You can thin them with enamel thinner. You can also thin them with turpentine, which is like a Zippo fluid. You can also thin them with white spirit or odorless white spirit as well. these guys straight out of the pot are so thick, so when you paint with those you need to thin them down. Now I won't tell you the proportion, you know, how much thinner you have to apply. This one is, I will leave it up to you. Usually I go with a 50-50 mix. That's my my mix. That's what works for me. What works for you is a different topic. If you want to find out, experiment with a flat piece that you are not going to use. Whatever I say right now, it's what suits me. You need to experiment a bit to see what suits you, to see how the paint reacts, because the way the paint reacts here, I mean where I live in Greece, is different than how the paint reacts in Germany. You know what I say? It's not geographical. It is mostly how humid, dry, hot, cold the weather is. This is affecting how the paint is working. So you have to find your own way. These guys are great if you thin them with white spirits and all the other thinners that I've told you. They need thinning, so keep an eye about that. They need thinning, and they need extra careful application, because they are prone to leave brush strokes if you're not careful. So I will leave them aside, and I will move on to these two. Oh, this one is enamel as well, sorry, this one is Model Master. I will move on to Tamiya paints right now. These are the first paints I have ever used, to be honest with you, and then I have tried enamels. So Tamiya paints are pretty solid for me. I always used them straight out of the pot, except if they were if they're close to the end, like this one, close to finishing I should say, because if they are half empty you need to use their respective thinner, X20. I never buyed that thinner, so I cannot tell you, I cannot honestly tell you how they paint. I just moved on to Vallejo. That's the next paint range that I have tried, so I am not so familiar with these guys over here. But since they were my beginner paints, I have to tell you that these guys are really solid. They can be applied straight out of the pot, but I believe that if you added their thinner and thinned their paint just a bit, something like 70 to 30 paint to thinner ratio, it would be ideal. But since I have never tried, I cannot be sure. And then we move on to my familiar stuff, which is the Vallejo paint range. I'm gonna start with Model Air. Model Air, it is advertised as a ready to go paint for an airbrush. These guys are pre-thinned. That's the way. That's the word that I'm going to use. I usually paint them straight out, use them straight out of the pot, and they work as a charm. This is the color that I have used for the Stug that you have seen, and for here, undiluted, straight out of the pot, because if you thin this thing it will become more transparent and you will need more than 2 coats of paint to have good coverage. So this is Model Air. Panzer Aces now and Model Color are a little bit thicker in their consistency, so I always thin them, something like 70% paint, 30% thinner or water, in my case water. Now in their metallic range I will rarely use I will use less water, so keep an eye about them. Use less water, because the more water you use, the more transparent they are becoming, and this might cause you an issue, because they have metallic thingies all over the paint, so this might be a problem for you. So keep an eye out for them, for the metallic range only. Now for the normal range, let's say that this one is not gunmetal, it is something else. Let me grab another one, because this one is distracting me. Now this one is modular as well. Yeah, this is the ideal candidate. So these two guys, I usually thin them 70%, as I've said, paint, 30% thinner, and they work like a charm. They have never betrayed me. They tend to even themselves out, so whenever you paint, if you leave them as they are, they will be a flat surface. They will create a flat surface if you don't move them all around the way with your paintbrush. They will self-level themselves if you have applied them diluted and one pass, and they will work as a charm. So for me at the time being, this is my preferred paint range, and those were my advices for painting, for brush painting. So let's recap. Thin your paints, prime your surface, very very important. 2 coats, 2 even coats, not thick, not so transparent. The transparent you can fix, the thick coat you cannot fix. You may hide some detail. You may hide some detail, as I've said. And my last advice is find the paint range that suits you. Experiment, guys. Experiment in a paint mule, or experiment in a surface that you don't care. And as you proceed, as you do it more and more, you will become better. Your hand will become steadier. You will know how your paint reacts. If you're using the same paint range for a while, you will be able to tell how it reacts. You will be able to tell how it reacts with heat, with cold, if you do this, if you do that. So those were my advices about paint, and now I am going to proceed with the Stug. I hope that I didn't bore you guys, and that you have you haven't slept. So my next step will be to give it another coat, of course, to even the paint out, to get the paint whenever I need it, to even it, to make it even. I've told that a lot. Anyway, as you can see, my camo, winter camo, has been applied to the surface, and here is how it looks. And I have spent the last 20 minutes, half an hour or so, debating with myself if I love it or if I hate it, because the stripes of the camo look too uniform to me. Looks like, I think that it looks like a what if paint job, what if camo application. Now Since I don't know if I like it or hate it, as I've said, I am thinking of doing two things. Either I am gonna go full risky and do the hairspray technique and then apply oils on top of it on the weathering stage and risk to create smudge and mess the whole build up, or I am going to create a whitewash with this paint and apply it on top of everything just to unify the whole look and try to see if I like my results. Now, of course, at this moment I cannot yet tell you what I am going to do. Well, this is going to be a surprise for our next part of the video. But I thought that this is a good time to record a clip so I can show you how this thing looks and what my train of thought is. Yeah, what is my train of thought with this build at this moment. I still cannot decide. I mean, I really like the stripes, you know. If it was something modern, I would love it, but for this period, and I don't know if they did if any camo existed like this. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with a what if camo scheme thing, but I yet cannot decide. Anyway, let me decide what I wanna do. If I wanna go risky or if I want to follow the safe route, or if I will do both. And I am going to be back to tell you exactly what I did and what happened and how it looks. So guys, I know that I have told a bunch of stuff about the camo of our Stug. I know that I've told you that I don't like it, etc, etc. But after a while, looking it with fresh eyes the next day, I kinda like it, and I want it to remain as it is. Of course, I'm gonna weather it and do some kind of filter to unify the whole area better. But this is going to remain as it is. So so we're gonna leave it as it is, and we're gonna continue moving on with our work. I have already done some mud work over here. I have dirtied up the vehicle, and here is how it looks. And while I was toying with this area, I decided to do the other side on camera, mainly for no reason. I don't know why. That's what my thought was. So what I have done and what we are planning to do, I am planning to replicate this side, of course, over here, using the same materials and stuff, and of course I'm gonna do it on camera. So apart from the painted surface, I just gave this side a coat of a pin wash of dark wash, Humbrol, and nothing else. So what we are going to do next I am going to add mud deposits, and since I have this one and I wanna get rid of it, I am gonna use this one. When I say mud deposits, I am talking about the mud that sticks over here at the nooks and crevices of the vehicle, which is always thick and always difficult to clean. Now let me find my paintbrush, my preferred paintbrush for this stuff. Is it this one? As always, I am unorganized. I love it. So, for our mud deposits, we're gonna use this product over here, and we're gonna start piling up mud in the corners. As you can see, I am applying a good amount and I am stapling it, but only at the corner where the fender meets the rest of the hole. It may look a little bit weird, but believe me guys, we are going to fix it later. We are going to unify the area later. Stick with me and we're gonna have a good result. Of course, and this is going to take a little while, you know. So you're gonna hear me ramble on camera. If I find anything of note, if I can find an interesting subject. Let's see. Okay. Come on, a little bit more over here. That's the spice. So over here and is almost ready. Well, actually, while I am at it, let's add some mud at the fender. Nobody's gonna have a good look over there, so I am not I don't worry too much about the application. I'm just applying it over here. I just want it to be here, to be present. Either way, when the tracks go onto the tank, even if you flip it, you won't be able to see anything. And I know that some of you guys watch this clean surface, but I am going to take care of it off camera as we move on. Right now I am concentrating on the sides. This I'm not gonna call it technique. This process is my go-to process in every tank, or almost every tank. I am changing it a little bit. This is not a recipe for me. I am changing it a little bit here and there. I always experiment, try new stuff and new products or concoctions, but this one is the most prevalent for me. So as you can see, I am also applying mud over here near the moving gear, because this is behind the road wheels of the tank, which I believe it is another difficult spot for crew and in general this is a difficult spot for crew and water to reach it, so it won't be so clean. It would have mud deposits stored over there. It would probably have months of mud stored there if not that if the tank doesn't get destroyed. So now what we are going to do, what is our next step? Our next step is of course to unify the whole thing. I am going to add water to my brush and start blending the mud. What's the result, you may ask? Why I am doing it? I wanna blend the mud with the whole surface. You know, I just don't wanna leave it with just a blank strip over here, or else it's not looking realistic. So I am going to use water. Since this is an acrylic product, and I am going to blend it. I am going to try to depict like there is water sticks all over the place, and they tend to drag some small deposits of mud downwards. So now that I have almost blended it, I'm not going too crazy about it because I'm gonna add a lot of material. So in the end it won't be visible, but if you're not adding so much material as me, you just need to be a little bit tidier with this step. So now my next step is to add dry mud. While this is wet, this is going to help our pigments stick to the surface. Not a lot, just a tiny bit here and there. Because we wanna have all those different textures over onto our vehicle. And now I will continue blending the surface. I'm going to move mud here and there in every spot, because this is a dirty vehicle after all. Winter, snow and mud make a really dirty vehicle. So as you can see, this is almost blended everywhere. every part of the lower hole is muddied up. Now what's my next step? My next step will be mud spatters, but I will have to wait a little bit to add them. I want this part to dry almost completely so I can do this effect. So give me some time, guys. I'm gonna pause the video over here. Well, guys, as you can see, everything is dry, and in the part we have worked on everything. Okay, yeah, everything is dry. So now it is time for us to add the mud spatters. So for the mud spatters, I'm gonna use an assortment of colors. One of them is 316 dark mud, another one is 315 light mud. Both of them come from Panzer Ace's range, and the other one is a model color 70.983 flat earth. What I am gonna do with them, of course, I'm gonna apply a small amount in my palette. I'm gonna dilute it with use of water into an in-between watery consistency. When I say in between, not so watery, not so thick. I am going to grab a cocktail stick. Cocktail stick basically is a bamboo skewer, and I am going to flick it all over. This will create the effect of mud spattering, you know, mud flying all around as the wheels turn, as the wheels go around, and will add more visual interest, of course. Of course, and mud is not one color, and that's why I am using those three. My god, sorry guys, my cat tried to do something weird in my office. So now let's try another color. Let's add another color, I should say. We're gonna proceed with light mud. Let me do the same thing, dilute it a bit. Load my brush. Since this is a lighter color, you can see the effect better. You just need a small amount of paint to do that. And finally, let's apply our third color, our third mud spatter, which is none other than dark mud. Let me do the same as before. Okay. Once again, this is a darker color and you cannot see the spattering effect go down onto the vehicle like the light mud, but it is there, believe me. It's not only there, it is also all over my bench now. But anyway, I'm gonna clean it later. And with that done, this is our full procedure for the time being. When it comes to mud effects onto the lower hull of the vehicle, onto the sides of the lower hull of the vehicle, I should say. Now I will, of course, remove the masking tape. And give you a closer look. That's how it looks like. Don't worry if you see anything popping, I mean they will tone down a bit after they dry, so the effect will be more subtle, yeah. And that's it for the mud effects, as I've said. Now I am going to leave this to dry. Well guys, I have just checked my footage and it looks like I have enough to wrap up a good episode. Good episode, maybe not so adventurous, but still a good episode, I think. Anyway, with all that said and done, we have made it to the end of this episode. On our next episode, we will continue with weathering, decal application, and some other stuff onto the Stug. When I say some other stuff, I am talking about the moving gear, tracks, road wheels, etc., etc. Anyway, this is a topic for our next episode, so I hope that you guys found this video helpful and interesting and stick along for the next one. Before I go, I wanna thank each and every one of you guys that watched this video. A special thank you to all my subscribers, old and new guys. You guys are the best and you are the reason I keep doing these videos. For the newcomers out there that encounter my videos for one of my videos for the first time, welcome guys. I hope that you like what I do. If so, you all know what to do. Leave a like, comment with your thoughts and opinions, share the video if you believe that it deserves to be shared, or even consider subscribing for more builds to come your way. Until the next time, fellow modelers and friends, take care and model on. It was that Mofo Daemon, signing out.